like
No, no, no worries. I'm just gonna move number four up because we're in that realm already, you know. So, okay. So the next question is, how are Black men and Black women contributing to colorism?
Ooh,
Oof.
ooh,
I know,
Olga,
Olga.
go.
Yeah, Olga, go,
Facts.
Olga.
Ooh, Black men having your preferences for the light skinned girls, number one. Let's start there because it goes white girl, light skinned girl, kind of dark skinned girl who, gets a little darker in the summer, and then me who doesn't tan. So, and then you guys, and then not you guys, sorry, I don't want to generalize,
No,
but
you know, say it. No, go
You
ahead,
pre-
go ahead.
Black men try to pass it off as it's just I just prefer. Ask yourself why you prefer that. Ask yourself, do you really know why you prefer? Like, did you just wake up and you're like, yeah, it's her, or was it like, no, it's the way that white is seen as. Obviously, we know the European standard, right? Like, the whiter the better. So obviously, the light skins who are closer to, being white, and then on top of that, because I feel like a lot of, I guess my experience anyways, a lot of light skinned girls, like in getting this attention, would then turn around and side with these guys and then, put down the dark skinned girls, woo, calling us every name in the book because they're acting like pick me's because these men were telling them that they were superior to us simply because their skin was lighter and what have you. And then on top of that, I think dark skinned women, it's not their fault, but in doing things like using the bleaching cream, you're further like having to see your parents, your mom, bleach her skin to become lighter than she was, or not even knowing how dark your mom really was, because by the time you were around, she was already 10 shades lighter than you are. That's just keeping this, like, keeping it going on through generations, because then you come into this world and you're like, oh, my mom's light, why am I so much darker? And then you find out why, and immediately you're like, what my mom's doing, and you don't really deep, like, it's okay to be dark skinned. It's okay to be dark skinned. So yeah, I don't know. Whew.
No,
it's
you
good that
said
it's
good.
good that you
But it is
are
definitely for both
expressing it.
sides, that both sides are contributing to it.
Yeah.
So
No, it's good that you're expressing this and tying to like the last part of it. That's going to be related to our next question afterwards. But I think it all comes down to that hierarchical status. If you know what I mean. Like I've witnessed even in high school, university as well. I know some people that say, "Oh no, black girls. I just prefer, but I prefer so and so." And so in you saying you prefer this individual due to their color or whatever, it just shows that social status, if you know what I mean. And you're basically bashing a darker skin color on the female, like, and I don't, for me, it just boggles my mind because I find it so hard to comprehend how you're saying you're being equal but you're not. When it's just like saying I'm racist, I'm not racist, but, and then you know what I mean, it's the same typical thing. So I like, even I can hear the voice of frustration when you're expressing. I know it's like I can see and understand that, and it's a fact.
yeah,
It happens till this day. Till this day, I
yeah.
know people that say the same thing. So
Or they like compliment you and add like for a black girl, and you're like,
yeah, I've heard. Yeah,
you couldn't
Yeah.
have just put
exactly.
a period at the end of the like,
Bro,
damn.
I'm not even sorry. I'm not even gonna friend. Like, I think that's the one thing that bothers me a lot. Like, even in high school, right? Like, you get approached by like a different race, and someone be like, oh, like, I don't usually go for black people, but it's like, but what?
Like, but what?
Like, come on, bro. Like, and in bars, like, to me, I can digest that more because I'm just kind of like, whatever. But when I hear it towards a black woman, I'm like, bro, like, stop. Like that to me is just like, that's just foolishness. But sorry, anyways, someone else wants to talk.
Uh, I think I guess like it's also because of mainstream culture and sort of um, the praising of lighter skinned women in entertainment and in stuff like that. That's also a big problem because then um, black men and just even men in general start to see that. And that's because of like years and years of that, right? There was a period in history where Black women weren't seen on TV, right? It's only really recently that in mainstream culture and entertainment, we see women of color, and specifically lighter skinned women of color, right? So I think it's sort of that programming of all, like, I'm not, I guess it's such a, I guess, yeah, it is. It's such a difficult topic, because it's like, it comes down, I definitely believe it comes down to the programming of young boys from a young age, that, oh, what I'm seeing on television now and on these YouTube videos, these YouTube music videos, are women that are lighter skinned, thus making them more beautiful than women that are darker skinned. So it's that sort of programming of young boys. Now then again, it's like, I don't think that it's necessarily, I honestly wouldn't say that a huge majority of Black men are more attracted to lighter skinned girls. I wouldn't say that, because I think a lot of Black men do find darker skinned women attractive, right? But I think if the ones that we see that are more successful, seeing women, sort of praising women that are lighter skinned, is because of the programming, right? And what tends to happen is that the people that look up to them, right, the people that look up to these celebrities, also start to praise light skinned women. So I think it comes down to the content that a lot of people are intaking, if that sort of makes sense.
I want to say something to that, because, okay, partially I agree with you, but I also feel like it's top behavior, man. Because like a lot of Black men, and I'll say a lot of Black men, it's only now that they're coming to the forefront saying, oh, yo, I appreciate my Black queens, or I actually want to be with a Black girl now, or like they start appreciating more darker skinned women. And why? Just back to your point, like media and all that, or people just feel like they need to cover up what they truly felt, just to make it seem like, oh, I'm not colorist, or I'm not racist, or whatnot, you know? And I feel like it's about time that, you know, we own up to that. There's been times where I know for all, because it's all a sticky situation for most of us, but I think right now is the time to be just fairly honest. We need to be fairly honest, because why do we see footballers or basketball players were usually white women, or
lighter skinned women,
or exotic women? You know, I don't think it's all because of what they're seeing from TV and media. I think that was top behavior, and it's just like something that has been instilled in them for a while, and now they're just realizing like, oh, like that's just stupid. Like, why am I just, you know? And to say like, oh, yeah, I like Black girls, but I prefer, like, nobody's saying you can't love other people that aren't Black, but it's like, if I'm with a Spanish girl, I don't need to knock down another Black woman just because she's Black. Like, it has nothing to do with my relationship. It just that just shows that. And I don't blame people for saying self-hatred, or like someone that just like your own Blackness, you don't even like it yourself, because you have to you know, start talking about other Black women when you're not even with one. Like, why you feel convicted to, you know, tear down other Black women? So I think a lot of this, it has to do with us. It has to do with us, because now within our age, you can't tell me that, most of the influence is just because of the media. You have your own preference, and that's okay. But to openly, you know, make it so obvious that like, oh, you just don't like Black women, like that's my issue.
Yeah, no, I definitely think I agree with that. I completely think that there's definitely a difference between vocalizing that you prefer a certain type of woman and completely dehumanizing and disregarding Black women. I definitely think that there's a difference between that. And yeah, no, I definitely agree with the fact that as men, just in general, you know, we have to make sure that we come forward and we are honest with ourselves in saying that, okay, well, what is it that we're doing wrong? And why is it that every single time that we do have a light-skinned girl, we choose to somehow belittle women that are darker skinned?
Yeah.
So, no,
and sorry to cut you off again. And it's one thing to have a preference, but you realize when you ask, let's say, and I'm not saying this is just with black men. There's sometimes I've had experience where there was black women that said, oh yeah, like I want to be with a white guy or whatnot. But you ask these people, why don't you prefer to be with a black man? They can't give you a concrete answer. They can't give you
implicit bias.
You know, it's either just like nonsense, or it's just like they don't even know themselves. So that's just my
it's funny that you bring up men, because like we have been talking about a lot about like the colorism that dark skinned women face, but I also feel like dark skinned guys get what's what I'm looking for, like really they like they'll call you like oh he's a piece of chocolate and stuff, like you guys get objectified in a way that lighter skinned men don't get objectified, or white men don't get objectified, right? Like you're seen as just this, not to everyone obviously, but like especially from what are they called, the snow bunnies, whatever the hell. Someone to give them cute children, and they'll call you like a piece of chocolate, just objectify the crap out of you. But and that's also a problem. Like it's for both dark skin. I believe that dark skinned women do have it worse, but we can't disregard like what dark skinned men go through. And I don't, like, for a lot of you guys are dark skinned guys, like do you have experiences where like you feel like that has happened to you?
Sorry, let's go with Miles first, and then we'll get to that question.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Miles
of course.
wants to say something.
It actually relates to what Olga's saying, and I was just going to talk about the fetishization of black men.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
And like personally, I think you're absolutely right in saying that it happened to dark skin more, but I certainly just because of my particular look, I have a look that just, you know, women tell me things that are like super weird, and I'm like, I don't like the fetishization. I think when you're younger, growing up in like I've lived in a bunch of different suburbs, some with more people of color, some with less, and like living in a white town, Oakville, I found myself super fetishized and super ostracized at the same time. Like I'm so outside, but I'm so like from a sexual standpoint or a cultural standpoint, like I'm this thing to ogle at, you know what I mean? And that's the only thing surrounding you. You feel no choice but to embrace it, you know what I mean? And then go with it. And it's not until you're older that you're like, oh wait, this is weird, and it's actually uncomfortable. It doesn't show love that I'm actually loving myself, you know what I mean? I'm just kind of following this thing, and because they're telling me that they like me or that they want me, it's fulfilling, when in actuality it's gross, and it's like it's still this subset of like race, you know. But yeah, the rest of you guys want to talk on like your experience with that, just fetishization by certain women, like please go ahead.
Actually, I just want to touch up on that just a bit. So when it comes to fetishization, right? You know, I sometimes beat myself up on it, right? Because I felt like I've realized it way too late than I should have, right? Like I feel like I've always known it was there, but I've always acted on it, right? Because like, you know, growing up, like obviously like in Edmonton, right? Like every person that's dark skinned can relate, right? You know, whether you're a guy or a woman, right? Like a lot of people didn't find us attractive, right? You know, and I presume it's very, very worse for the women, right? Where like they got ridiculed, made fun of, you know, all the above, right? And I felt like as soon as I got that attention, right, from like anybody, whether it was like fetishization or nothing, I acted on it, right? And one of the things that like, you know, even Miles and I went to a concert, right? And this is like way after like when I you know started realizing stuff. Miles and I went to a concert, and a lady came up to him and she was like, yeah, you know, my daughter likes black guys. And then he was like,
Hold on. Let me
Yeah,
analyze
explain. Yeah, explain.
it by looking at us, and y'all know the look. Coming up to you, and they have these eyes, and you're like, oh, you must have. Yeah, I just want to enjoy my concert, but she gives me the look, and I'm like, oh shit. And she's like, hey, where can we find some Jamaican spots? And I'm like, I don't know.
What?
Told her,
Google, sis. That's where.
yes, like I don't know. And then she's like, no, like the clubs and blah blah blah. And in my head, I'm like, oh, she doesn't get it. This is a white nation. We don't have a club, you know what I mean? We have a Jamaican DJ that goes to a bar at a time. Anyways, I'm like, oh, you can just try this club or whatever. Like I don't know. And then she's like, my daughter, black guys, and I'm like, what does this have to do with me? Try Tinder. I don't know. What do you want me to say? And she's like, no, that's my daughter. And I'm like, well, you're the one that just thrusted your teenage daughter onto us. So like, you take what you want from that.
Yeah, no, so like that's yeah, it's bothersome, right? Because like it's examples like that, right? It's that like yeah, like there's this whole thing where it's like, yeah, like I only like black guys, or like, I want mixed babies, or like, they have a big poster of ASAP Rocky on their wall, and like they think like, that's the only type of guy that they want or whatever, right? And the one thing that I want to point out, it's like it's not only white women that do this, and I felt like a lot of people were trying to tell me stuff where it's like, oh well, like no, she's not white, so like it's not, it shouldn't feel weird, but it's like, no, it feels weird, bro, because like
Yep.
why are you telling me certain stuff where like if I told you like, oh, like what's that Dave line on Location, like Indian girl sweet nani or whatever, like if I said that to you, like you wouldn't be comfortable with that, you know what I mean? So why do you feel comfortable saying this and that to me, right? So I think like when it comes to fetishization, it's just like this whole thing where like they think they're benefiting out of it, and it's very bothersome. And like I started realizing it like a few years back when I was like, yo, I think I need to stop playing into this role where it's like, oh, like, you only like me because like, you benefit out of it, or like there's certain features of me that intrigue you, right? And even like going back on Olga's point when it comes to like, as black men, contribute to colorism, I think, like I can personally speak on myself where it's like, I'm not perfect. There's definitely times where I've said like, oh, like I have a preference, right? But then like I ask myself the question, I'm like, why do I have a preference, right? And it's been time where like I've been like, let me really think about this, right? I'm like, if I don't have to directly tell people about stuff, right? The way that I'm moving, right, is already disrespectful if I'm like disregarding, people that like, that basically look like me, right? Or like, try, bring in people that like wouldn't see me in the same light, right? So I think when it comes down to colorism, it's definitely one of those things where it's like you see it, right? You see it, but a lot of people won't admit it, right? And I feel like that's a problem.
Okay, can I just, because you said at the beginning, you feel like you realized it too late, but like, I just want to emphasize, like, it is not your fault and there is no too late. Like, the fact that you realized it is great, but also, like, I think that's important because, like, as people who are, like, as dark skinned people in school and as kids and stuff, like, you're just shat on pretty much, and everyone just ridicules you and makes fun of you all the time. The lights get turned off. Where did Olga go? Like, you can't see anyone. The lights are off. I don't know why you have to point out all that, right? So it's like,
no, for real.
Paying attention to you, and even if it is in a like fetishizing way, it feels good, right? You're like, oh, finally people are like, she's not the scum of the earth, she doesn't look like a gorilla, whatever it is, right? And you just want that attention, and it's human nature to want that attention, but it's like it's important that you start to realize you're like worth more than that. And so I don't think that you should like beat yourself over that. Like, it's a good thing that you noticed, and that's like the most important part. And there's no too late. So.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I definitely agree. I think it comes with growth, right?
Yeah.
Self growth, and me specifically, I had a situation long time ago, where I was with a girl, and we were together, and she called me the N-word, right, with like the hard R, while we were doing stuff together, and it was it was definitely like, wow, like it was crazy. And at the time, I remember I felt nothing, like I didn't feel any sort of way about it, right? And I actually went with my friends, and we talked about it, and we never looked at it as something to kind of find weird. We never looked at it as something that was ugly. And then years and years later, me and these same friends were sitting down and we're talking about it. And I came out, and upon thinking about it, I was like, wait, guys, I was actually very, very uncomfortable when that happened. And they kind of looked at me, and they're like, we understand. Like, we understand why you would be uncomfortable about it. And they asked me, like, but back then it didn't seem like a big deal. So why is it that you're uncomfortable about it now? And I explained to them that, well, I don't know, but now it's uncomfortable, right? Now it feels uncomfortable. And if that was to ever happen again, I'm gonna say some. And it won't be something to dismiss. So I definitely think that comes down to growth, right? When you're younger, you usually let a lot of things go, right? And as you get older, you start to mature, you start to understand that some things are wrong, and you have to speak out, and you have to say no, or you have to say, this is wrong. And I think, it just comes with growth, man. It just comes with growth.
I know Miles wants to say something.
Yeah, I think part of what keeps colorism alive or his preferences is your proximity. And I think I noticed growing up in different cities, there's different people around me, so my attraction changes depending on where I am. And then certain whiter cities, there's more white people, and that's what I'm able to choose from. So that's sort of where, and of course with the systemic ideas and the programming in mind still at play, certain groups of people get left out and certain people aren't that as much. And I can say that something like being around Romeo, knowing him for like 4 years, has been my first like real introduction into the African community, where I'm Black and I'm from Canada. And yes, I grew up with African people, but having a really close friend that's from Africa changes your perspective on a lot of things as well. And we're able to introduce each other to our differences and similarities in the same breath, you know what I mean? And because of that, your preferences change again, your proximity to certain people changes, and different people are around me. So I can be thankful for that.
Beautiful. Anybody else?
Rome, sorry, can you? Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say that I feel like my image doesn't pop up. It's okay, you can just see me in the corner. I think that the reason why a lot of people have colorist kind of mentalities, and I think it's because it spreads across all cultures. Like every single culture has colorism. Every single culture all over the world. Skin bleaching is something that happens all over the world. The only people that don't want to be white are white people, which is weird. Do you know what I mean? Like, which is very weird.
It's not, I get it. It's not that weird.
It's like, they're like, all you guys are savages. All you guys are ugly. But you know what? Let me just take that shit from you. You know what I mean? Appropriate all that. You feel what I'm saying? So I think that everybody has experienced colorism. And I feel like on both sides, I feel like if you're darker skinned, maybe when you're younger, you're looking at people who are light skinned thinking like you're trying to hate on them because they're getting love, and then you're not really reciprocating that, and vice versa. Do you know what I mean? And even me, I realize I've internalized a lot of things. Even though I'm not dark skinned, I'm brown skinned, I've still felt like I'm not trying to stay in the sun that much and get darker because I know the implications people aren't gonna find me as attractive potentially, and I'm around niggas that are like light skin that I'm like, oh, I'm trying to like slide on that side a little bit, you know what I mean? Which is really sad, which is very, very, very sad. And I feel like now actually black men are getting a lot more love, and black women are getting a lot more love. And people always want to blame the media for everything. I'm a media student, I'm about to graduate. Everyone's like, you're the one who's making us hate black people or like black people. And it's much deeper than that. It's like a generational thing. It's something that,
Sure.
you know, especially if you come to Canada or you come to another place, you want to be who the majority are. You want to you want to, I don't know, adhere yourself to those kind of standards, and you want to fit in, and you want them to accept you. And so you're going to want to mimic things that are more white because they're the majority and they're, you know, the on top, or, you know, what people describe as beautiful. So you're trying to like so hard to try to be like them. You know what I mean?
Actually, Uba, sorry, can I add something
Yeah,
on
go
top?
ahead. Yeah.
Juice, I know you want to say something. I just want to add something on top of hers. Regards to the media, right? Like, I completely 100% agree with you on that. I feel like, you know, Juice and I have talked about this before, right? I feel like, regards to, you know, colorism, preferences, and stuff like that, right? I feel like a lot of people talk about like how they grew up and the media like in the same sentence. They're like, well, you know, it's not like, you know, at the same time it's not really your fault, but like, you know, no, it's not my fault. It's like, you know, the media, this and that. We're like, no, I was just around so many like other people that I didn't see, like, you know, black women this way and that way, right? But at the same time it's like, okay, but we're grown now. Like, we're grown now. Like, these excuses can't fly anymore. You know what I'm saying, right? Where it's like, oh no, it's the media. No, it's not the media no more. You can make full conscious decisions. You can make full conscious, you know, thoughts, right? Where you fucked up, and you can, you know, fix it, right? And even if you like weren't thinking like that at first, right? But you have full conscious, you know, this choice making, that you like, you know what you're doing, right? So I think like this whole media thing where it's like, oh, it's the media, this and that. It's like, yo, bro, like, in all honesty, like you as a person, you as a human being, like, you made your decision, right? And there's still a lot of men that think that way, right? Where it's like, oh no, like, I just have a preference, or like, I just think this, I just think that. But it's like, bro, like, stop blaming other people for, you know, what you're supposed to do, right? But like, you know, own up to it. You know what I'm saying, right? Like, that's basically what I'm trying to say. My bad, but Juice, go on.
Yeah, no.
And then I want to add something to it.
Go ahead.
I can add?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. My thing is more like, so when I was listening to your thing, Romeo, like, it was beautiful, it was good. Just like you were saying, like, the influences that the media gives, right? To me, I wrote like, I had a guy, he hit me up, he's white, he wanted to know a little bit more and stuff, and just like, you know, he's in a psychology major, and he just wanted to like talk about the issues that have been going on, right? And he mentioned something about the domino effect, right? And I wrote like a rebuttal back to his thing, and I pretty much mentioned that the domino effect is a very essential, like, is a very effective way of transmitting information, opinions, anything throughout generations, on and on. And what I think is that it doesn't matter whether they be positive or negative. It's going, as long as you are tuned into it, it's going to, you know, it's going to affect you. It's going to impact you because you're listening it, because you're tuned into it. So what you were mentioning about, like, if you're tuned into it, like, if you know what is right or wrong, right? It's just like something as basic as this. Manners are passed on over and over. We know, like, you know, say hello, please, and thank you, blah blah blah. That's positive, right? Something negative, something bashing somebody like this, that's learned. That's a domino effect that's passed throughout the ages, right? And it's only up until you realize, like, you connect, like, yeah, that's right, that's right, that's right, that's wrong. You have to have something that feels on you, and you know, you're like, that doesn't sit right. Like, same thing, Paul Ford, right? Like, you notice it after. You say that it only hit you then. If it didn't, it's still like, if it didn't hit you, you would have never brought it back up. So it always sat with you wrong the entire time. It was only then that you realized that, yo, this is not what she said the whole thing. Miss Gert, like, yo, what is that? Right? It's sat with you the entire time. So unless you like realize and build yourself and know like what you want and what you recognize and learn about yourself, right? It just comes for a gut feeling. All of us are so intelligent. We're, as a human person, we know something like that flies by. If something says or something is being done to us and we don't like it, we know it right then and there, right? But it's up to us to act on it. We choose. So that's basically what I wanted to mention, right? Like within all of us here, and we're talking about the colorism and how you act on something. It's all a choice. We all know what's right and wrong and how we feel, and that is like entirely dependent on, say for example, like what we know and what we take into consideration with the media and whatever. That's on to us though. Like you said, like it's if you know, you act on it, and it's just simple as that.